think I'm live. Let's check it. Ooh, that doesn't look right. Oh, okay. There I am. How do I sound? There we go. So, first boss of the God Wars dungeon that I'm going to do in this 4-part series is Kree'arra, otherwise known as the Armadyl boss of the God Wars Dungeon 1. As AFK as it possibly gets. So, first thing you're going to need is kill count, if you don't already know how to do that. If you can't skip it, this is the way you're going to do it. All the gear that I'm going to show you, you can take in onto the same inventory with the kill count as well as the kills. You don't want to leave if you cannot skip kill count. So first thing you're going to need, the best overloads you could possibly use. Enhanced Excalibur if you have it. Ancient Elven Ritual Shard will help you with your prayer. If you are on a Slayer task, make sure to be wearing your Slayer helmet. I am not on a Slayer task, so I will not be wearing it. Some things that are worth mentioning, but are not necessarily required for this, are the Adrenaline Urn. What you can do with the Adrenaline Urn is you can take it over to War's Retreat, and you can take it over to this Adrenaline Crystal right here, and what it will do is it will store 1000% of adrenaline. It's really nice because typically your bar caps at 100%. One thing that you might need to know is that when you are using the Adrenaline Urn, your attacks will not take out of the Adrenaline Urn. They will still take out of the bar. But what it does is excuse me, I'm thinking real quick. What it does is that when you are out of combat, it will keep your adrenaline bar at the exact same level as it was when you left combat. It will keep it from depleting, and instead it will deplete the Adrenaline Urn. The Adrenaline Urn, if you have the healing effect active from when your bar depletes, it will not heal you. It's probably the most critical stuff you might know. Kree'arra is not really a hard boss to do. It's possible to do pretty easily in tier 80 weapons and tier 70 gear. Armadyl is perfectly fine. My gear is tier 80, and the only reason I have it is because it's non-degradable. Otherwise, use the best possible range gear if you want fast kills, if you want to really make sure it's, a secure AFK method. Best gear possible, but it's perfectly fine in tier 70s. I wouldn't go below tier 70s because that's when you'll start taking a little more damage. Your best DPS gear, again, so if you have something that says range damage bonus on it, use it. The next thing you're going to want to use is the best cape, range cape available. I have the it's the upgrade to the Fight Kiln cape. It's the Zuck cape. That is pretty useful. The next thing you're going to want to need are, you can do it with any bolts, royal or better. I've seen people use Dragonstone E bolts before. What I like to use is Becriminal bolts, and it's actually the enchanted Becriminal bolts. So in here it says I have Emerald Becriminal bolts and Ruby Becriminal bolts. So the Emerald Becriminal bolts are really only going to be useful for when you're getting kill count. Otherwise you're going to want to switch to your Ruby Becriminal bolts. Now if you remember enchanted bolts, it's still the same thing. The Ruby bolts will deal a bit of damage to you for it to do extremely high damage in one hit. And the reason you want to use rubies is because the boss is not poisonable. So I'm going to come over to Wars, attune to Kree'arra. More about the gear. I'm using Nightmare Gauntlets. They're not terribly expensive. You only have to buy them once, and then you can repair them at an armor stand. That's fine. Same with the boots. Those are the only things I have that are degradable other than my weapons. Use the best crossbows that you have. It can be a two-handed bow. It can be a two-handed crossbow. It can be dual-wield. As long as it's the best weapons you have. This Demon Horn necklace is going to be used in conjunction with the, go to my Slayer part here, the Bone Crusher. That will also recharge your prayer. As long as your Bone Crusher is set to bury big bones and regular bones, it will recharge your prayer. I have 1 dose of Overload, 1 dose of Aggression, and 1 dose of Prayer Renewal, which will help me get my kill count faster before entering the boss room. And then I have what's called a Binding Contract, and it's a Ripper Demon. The Ripper Demon does the most damage of pretty much any familiar. So yeah, and you could just let it auto attack and it'll be pretty good damage. Crimson charms and blue charms are going to be dropped from the boss. I don't think they're too common, but they do get dropped. Your spring cleaner will help you clean up the salvage drops as well as the dragonhide bodies and the bow drops. If you get any battle staves from kill count, that'll help you clean those up, or it'll more than likely I would put it on I have it on research mode. I like having the bonus crafting XP, but you can also put it on dismantle mode for money. Since I'm looking at the spring cleaner, to change the mode for each item, click the radio of your chosen mode and click the item you wish to change. The color of the button represents the current selected mode. My spring cleaner is fully upgraded. So you might not have a fully upgraded one, but you can charge it with springs and you'll be perfectly fine. Green boxes represent the current upgrades you have unlocked. Yellow boxes represent, okay, that's not important. Okay. And that's the way I have it. Magic note paper. So when some drops that you want to pick up don't stack, that's where you use your magic note paper. In the past, I've had a lot of Armadyl armor piece drops, and I've had to use magic notepaper on them. The next thing you want is not required, but it will help, is a Scrimshaw of Cruelty. It'll just deal extra damage. It's just straight up extra damage. For your auras, I would recommend either Penance or Vampirism or Dark Magic. Most of the time, I like to use Penance because sometimes the Demon Horn Necklace along with the Bone Crusher still won't be enough, no matter how much prayer healing stuff I have. So the Penance Aura will help you receive more prayer points based on the damage you receive. The other thing is, you will be using Soul Split here. And that's really about it. So I'm in here right now, getting my kill count. I'm going to stand probably about over here. If I feel like I'm going to get low on health, I hide in here a little bit. And use your best area of effect bar for kill count. And then we're going to do this until 40. Until the Armadyl hits 40. The kill count does take a little bit of time sometimes. But that's why it's really useful to use the best gear possible. My gear is perfectly fine, you know. Sometimes I'll even throw on Anguish just to help speed it up a little bit. I do have Penance readily available. You'll notice you're going to get a lot of Zamorak kill count too. There's nothing you can really do about it, especially if you're AFKing it. They just kind of attack you anyways. They are in every faction, no matter what. They're very invasive. This method is possible with range and necromancy. As you can see, this person here is going to use necromancy. Necromancy is a bit different. I don't really like using necromancy here because it doesn't have the long-reaching distance like range and magic do. Don't recommend magic unless you have very, very high-level magic gear. You're going to take a lot of damage with magic, pretty much no matter what. You cannot use melee here. For whatever reason, the chat box will say Kree'arra is flying. And you cannot reach with melee. Which is really weird because you can see him walking. Right there, physically walking. So they should change that. It's something they've kind of overlooked, I think. If you have a Luck of the Dwarves, use it. Always use your Luck of the Dwarves at the boss. No matter what. It does have stats. The stats are not that bad. They're actually kind of decent. They're not as good as this ring. The reason I'm not using Luck of the Dwarves is because I have a relic that allows me to have the effect from archaeology. And there we go. I've kind of passed my kill count just a little bit. Okay. In here is where I am going to turn off my prayer, switch over to my rubies, and do instance encounter. Make sure your settings are always on fastest. It will allow the spawn to pretty much always be as soon as possible. The next thing you want to do is switch your ability bar to your best 1v1 bar for range. You can see I've started with 100% adrenaline. It's not necessary at all. But I have a relic from archaeology that allows me to do it. 100% not necessary. But you can copy my bar and everything will be good. It does help to have the adrenaline urn, but it's not required by any means. Adrenaline urn you cannot buy from the Grand Exchange. It's a very rare drop from another monster. So at this point, I'm going to activate my Scrimshaw, activate my Penance Aura, Enhance Excalibur, Ancient Elven Ritual Shard, Elder Overload, step over here, summon my Binding Contract, and make sure my quick prayers are set to Soul Split and Anguish. Attack Kree immediately. And if you see your familiar outside, make sure he's coming inside. So you can do that by right-clicking and clicking on Call Follower. But you can see he's in there attacking him. And that's about it. From that point on, you could just sit there. And you're good to go. Always use your best overloads. If you don't have holy overloads for any reason, use a regular overload and a super prayer renewal. That will be your best bet. You're going to want 2 full potions of each, 6 doses of each. So you're going to want 12 doses total of each. I always bring 12 doses of overload. My Elder Overload salve covers the prayer renewal aspect, as well as it's the best overload in the game. I'm going to drop my overload. Oops. I got to set my settings up. Item drops. Multiple items open loot inventory. Make sure there's a checkbox in that. Drop my overload. Click on it. And it will open that right there. And from that point on, you will be able to see all the drops that Kree drops, that monster drops, Wingman. And there's one more that spawns like right here, Flight. You'll see those 3 drops. If you want to collect the drops that are over there from that one, from Flock Leader, you're going to have to run over there. But it's going to be pretty rare that you're going to want any drops from it. In the past, I have made 12 mil an hour here. Of course, that would be before the cost of everything that I'm spending. The hourly money that I'm spending here might be about 800k or so. It's not a whole lot. I'll stream this for an hour. Just to, you know. You can see I was dealt a little bit of extra damage there. That was from my ruby bolts, but I got healed up immediately from my soul split. It did a little bit of extra damage against Kree. And that's about it. There will be a few instances where you won't automatically aggro onto Kree, so you will have to click them. It's not that big of a deal, but the reason is sometimes you will aggro onto the minions instead, and that's not really something you want to do. The reason I'm standing in the doorway is because if you stand out just in the middle of the room, he's going to push you around with his with one of his attacks. And then what it does is it stops you from attacking him, like, overall, and it's just not a good time. So when your overload runs out, just re-overload, and you're good to go. What you can do is you can click your Enhance Excalibur, your Ancient Elven Ritual Shard, and an Overload all at the same time, and you'll be perfectly fine. See, like that, I aggroed onto the minion instead of the boss. For whatever reason that happens, I'm not sure why. But it's as simple as just clicking on the boss and it'll fix itself. You can see I collected that bird's nest in the loot inventory. That came from all the way over there when I'm standing all the way over here. That's how nice that loot inventory is. A lot of times what I'll do is I'll make my game screen smaller and I'll turn on like YouTube or something. Sometimes I can just walk away from the computer and I'll still be alive. There'll be no problems whatsoever. See, I aggroed onto the minion again. Simply just click the boss again to fix that. My aura is active. For whatever reason, it's not showing up here. See, there's a perfect example to use the magic note paper there is with potions. So a super defense is 7.6k, a super range is 7.5k, whereas magic note paper is 776 coins. So it's a very clear profit to do that. It helps save inventory space, and then you can collect more potions later if it drops more. Whoops. I keep clicking there. I don't know why the aura is not showing up there. I like to use it a lot of times because it gives me a nice, solid time for how long the instance is also going to last. It's 1 hour, which is exactly how even it is. So it kind of gives me an idea of how long I have left in the instance if it is there. Second drop of potions. Now, if I had just collected all the potions without noting them, it would have filled up my inventory with both sets to about here, and I'd only have like 4 spaces left. So that's how good the note paper is for that. See, I'm barely paying attention to this. It's just this easy. It's 100% possible with Armadyl armor as well. I don't have it in my bank or on me, so I just kind of used what I had. Animal core is also good armor and non-degradable. It's the best non-degradable armor, actually. So even if I do aggro onto the minions, it's still really easy to kill Kree without any problems. I just kind of aggro onto him last for whatever reason. I don't know why that works, but I mean, either way, health is not really going to drop down at all. So you should be fine. See, even with the ruby spec, I'm still at full health. It hit a 12k. I'm gonna go get some water. See, I'm perfectly fine, still alive, full health. I walked away for like a minute and a half, and it's still good. Getting really unlucky right now with drops, though. Haven't had a single one. Godsword shards are not really considered a drop. They're not more than like 100 and something K. 156K. It's almost better to just help them at this point. Wow. That's actually pretty new. The area loot actually reaches all the way over there. So these mushroom potatoes, you can collect them. They can be used for food just in case something really does go wrong. I wouldn't expect it to go wrong at all. But, you know, it's always a just in case. They heal just as much as a shark. There goes my overload again. Mana rays are also a really good backup food. I think it's right there that the area loot cannot reach. So if I wanted those, I'd have to run a little bit. Whoop. You can see my weapons leveling up with invention. I do have invention perks on my weapons. They are definitely not necessary. 100, like, at all. The other thing I always recommend when it comes to weapons is always upgrade your weapon first before upgrading your armor. Your weapons are really what determines, like, your base hit. Your armor is just going to be, like, it might add a little bit extra, and that's about it. But it's such a minuscule amount, it really doesn't matter too much. So if you have tier 90 weapons and only tier 70 armor, that's still going to work great. It's actually preferred that way instead of doing tier 80 weapons and tier 80 armor. You're going to want tier 90 weapons and tier 70 armor. It does get a little bit repetitive, especially, you know, especially when you have almost 10k kills at this boss. Wow. Feels bad. I'm not getting any drops. Recharge my overload because I heard the timer. Hmm. Getting close to 10 mil bonus XP on prayer. That'll be really nice to finally use that up. It's unfortunate that this is not a very good example of a hour in terms of drops, because I'm not getting anything, man. But I see my clan people, my clanmates get something like all the time. It's kind of crazy. find it funny I don't have to pay attention to literally any of this. It's just how easy these bosses are. This is applicable to all 4 Godwars Dungeon bosses, really. Just super easy. You don't need to pay attention to anything. You really won't die as long as you have Soul Split. And, like, at least tier 70 gear. Tier 80 really does help make sure, but tier 70 is fine. My overload died, and look, I'm still doing like really good damage, honestly. Since my overload died, I might be taking a little more damage, more than I can heal up with Soul Split. But I guess I've never tested it before. Yeah, it does look like I'm taking a bit more damage. I've never had red this consistently on my health this whole trip, so that will eventually turn bad. This is probably the worst luck I've ever had at Kree'arra. Normally, if I do a 2-hour trip, I can get like 5 drops. But a 1-hour trip with 0, that really sucks. 6 minutes left. Not a single drop. That really stinks. That really sucks. Alright, here comes my last dose of overload for the hour. $24,000 GP. That was a salvage elk from the spring cleaner. I should have emptied my coin pouch and tracked how much GP I make from the Alks, but it's a little bit, you know. I wouldn't say it's insanely good, but more potions. So you even got an effigy, but no drops. Every so often, the spring cleaner will fail cleaning up the black dragonhide body. You can just pick that up. It's still a good 8K, I think. Well, 6K. It's actually better to alk it. It's funny. That must mean it's a decent crafting method too. More potions. This arena has expired and no further bosses will spawn. Apparently that was my last kill, so let's get the last of what I need. And here's the price checker. Now, keep in mind, this is a really, really bad run. A really, really bad run for drops. I stayed the full hour, 0 problems. AFK. 549k. So here's the reality about God Wars Dungeon is it's only recommended if you actually do get drops. It's the only way you're going to make 12 mil an hour. Otherwise, it's going to be like nothing. But 549k plus whatever I got from coins and alks, say a mil. So, really not great. At least with drops. But again, it requires getting drops. But that'll be it.